longer, you can leave, inshallah. Okay? So actually, maybe there are two stories. So this author, he kept having pneumonia. So he went to his doctor. His doctor said, hey, you keep getting pneumonia. How about you try a breathing class? So I think it was in Philadelphia. He went to a breathing class where there was a lady. She basically said, okay, everybody sit down, take a blanket because it's cold. The window is open, and you need a blanket to kind of put on your body, but you're sitting down. So he says that he went to this class at 7 p.m. The bushy-browed woman locked the front door, sat in the middle of the group, inserted a cassette tape into a beat-up boombox, and pressed play. She told us to close our eyes. So basically, she puts a tape in, and there's a man that seems to have an Indian accent, and he is saying, okay, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. That's all it is. It's a breathing class. He said we repeated this process for a few minutes. I reached over a pile of blankets and wrapped one around my legs to keep my stocking feet warm beneath the drafty window. Okay, so it is cold enough that he needs a blanket. Okay, what's going on there? I think these kids were inspired by the video, and they're trying to now climb, but that was not climbing. So he says, I kept breathing, but nothing happened. No calmness swept over me. No tension released from my tight muscles. Nothing. He says 10, maybe 20 minutes passed, and I started getting annoyed and a bit resentful that I had chosen to spend my evening inhaling dusty air on the floor of an old Victorian. I opened my eyes and looked around, and everyone had the same somber, bored look. Prisoner eyes appeared to be sleeping. Jerry Lewis looked like he was relieving himself. Bindi sat frozen with a Cheshire cat smile on her face. I thought about getting up and leaving, but I didn't want to be rude. The session was free. The instructor wasn't paid to be here. I needed to respect her charity, so I closed my eyes again, wrapped the blanket a little tighter, and kept breathing. Then something happened. I wasn't conscious of any transformation taking place. I never felt myself relax on the swarm of nagging thoughts leave my head, but it was as if I had been taken from one place and deposited somewhere else, and it happened in an instant. The tape came to an end, and I opened my eyes. There was something wet on my head. I lifted my hand to wipe it off and noticed my hair was sopping. I ran my hand down my face, felt the sting of sweat in my eyes, tasted salt. I looked down at my torso and noticed sweat blotches on my sweater and jeans. The temperature in the room was about 68 degrees, much cooler beneath the drafty window. But I had somehow sweated through the clothes as if I had just run a marathon. So just sitting there on 68 degrees, it's like sweat all around him. The instructor approached and asked if I was okay, if I had been sick or had a fever. I told her I felt perfectly fine. Then she said something about the body's heat and how each inhaled breath provides us with new energy and each exhale releases old stale energy. I tried to take it in but was having trouble focusing. I was preoccupied with how I was going to ride my bike 3 miles home from this place in these sweat-soaked clothes. He said the next day I felt even better. As advertised, there was a feeling of calm and quiet I hadn't experienced in a long time. I slept well. The little things in my life didn't bother me as much. So basically, he just went to this breathing class, and just following this tape, he had this amazing experience where sitting in a cold day, all of a sudden, he's completely covered in sweat. Okay? Now, the next story I want to share with you real quick, and then you can choose to decide to stay or not. So he talks about a man who wrote a book. His name was Peter Kelder. He says that in the 1930s, Kelder was sitting on a park bench in Southern California when an elderly stranger struck up a conversation. Anybody ever done that before? Strike up a conversation with a stranger? Very rarely, right? Not in this generation. So the man whom he called Colonel Bradford had spent decades in India with the British Army. The colonel was old, all sloping shoulders, gray hair, and wobbly legs. But he believed there was a cure for aging and that it was locked up in a monastery in the Himalayas. The usual mystical stuff occurred up there. The sick became healthy, poor became rich, old became young. Kelder and the colonel stayed in touch and shared many conversations. Then one day the old man hobbled away, desperate to find this Shangri-La before he drew his last breath. 4 years passed until Kelder received a call from his building's doorman. The colonel was waiting downstairs. He looked 20 years younger. He was standing straight, his face vibrant and alive, and his once balding head was covered in thick, dark hair. Once balding head was covered in thick, dark hair. He had found the monastery, studied the ancient manuscripts, and learned restorative practices from the monks. He had reversed aging through nothing more than stretching and breathing. Kelder described these techniques in a slim booklet titled The Eye of Revelation, published in 1939. So, this book, as you can see, the title of it is called The New Science of a Lost Art. The New Science of a Lost Art. And James Nestor is actually a science journalist who writes for some of the big newspapers and magazines. So he's not like one of those make-up stories type of guy. Everything has to be verified and researched. And basically from this experience that he had in that breathing exercise, he basically went on to study breathing, like what is all of this stuff going on here, and thus this book comes about. So he says that 25,000 times a day we breathe without even thinking about it. Yet, modern breathing habits have become profoundly dysfunctional, contributing to chronic stress, poor sleep, and reduced vitality. Now, who here knows someone who snores when they sleep? Okay. So, I'm not talking about you, right? Someone else that you know. So, the good news, relearning a few simple ancient techniques can dramatically improve your energy, focus, sleep quality, and overall resilience. So, he says that first thing, he says that of course, he is talking from a scientific perspective, so he calls it nature. We call it Allah. We say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created which part of our body to breathe? The nose or the mouth? The mouth? No, the nose. Okay? So he did an experiment that for 10 days, okay, too much noise going on. So if whoever wants to talk, we have, alhamdulillah, plenty of space. Just go into another room. In this room, no one should be talking. Upstairs and downstairs. So he said he plugged his nose with silicone plugs for 10 days shut. He's not going to be able to breathe through his nose. It's only going to be through his mouth. Then during these 10 days, he's staying at a Stanford University area and he's getting a number of different tests done every day. His stress level, his blood pressure, his blood oxygen, all of these type of things. He's testing several times a day. Then 10 days later, they unplug the nose and now he's breathing normally and they do all of those tests again. And what can you imagine? The results are dramatically different that you can tell. So he says that the nose is the one, number one, that the nose filters the air before it goes in. Mouth does not. Okay, here's something that you can try. Breathe through your mouth right now. How much air you can take in, right? Now, close your mouth and breathe through your nose. Can you take the same amount of air in? No, you cannot. Because the nose actually has a filtration process and pressurizing process. So it actually doesn't allow all the air to go directly in, but actually gives it the right amount. It also warms and humidifies the air the way it should go in. Still talking going on in the back. Just go into the side rooms, please. And also the blood circulation. Okay, now how many people here have blocked nose issues? A lot of us, we have, sinuses are always clogged and we are like having trouble breathing. So he says that the muscle inside your nose, or the tissue inside your nose, is actually the type of tissue which basically the more you use it, the more it grows. So it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. If you use it, it actually develops more. So to breathe through your nose is something that's very important. So one of the things that he recommends, so here you can see an image where if you breathe through your nose when you're sleeping, the air goes through and it actually goes through here. But if you breathe through your mouth, it basically has to force the back of your tongue to kind of press in, and that's when you start snoring basically. Okay? So he says that when you breathe through your mouth, you have constant sleep disruption. How many of you have a smartwatch? So if you have a smartwatch, you can look at, in the morning, you can look at your sleep analysis, and it will tell you how much you snored, how much you actually were lying down, your eyes were closed, but you were not actually sleeping. You were awake. Okay, and that means that for many people, they might be in bed for like 7 hours, but they might have only slept maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And then you wake up in the morning and you're not fresh. You're tired, you're groggy, your mind is not clear. So cognitive fog, stress hormones in your body, if you're not breathing right, the stress hormone is high. So what's the solution he gives? So he actually popularized this idea, but he's not the first one, which is that there are a number of different products where when you go to sleep, you put on a piece of tape on your mouth. Okay? You have some of these products here. This one right here, you can see that's the one that I use. And it's in the beginning, it's kind of awkward. Like you have, your mouth shut, but they have enough space that you can, like, if you feel like you can't breathe, you can breathe through it. But when you actually close your lips shut and you go to sleep, you will see that you will wake up fresh. You will wake up rested. Because you're basically forcing your nose to do what it's supposed to do, what it's been made to do. And you're forcing your mouth shut so that your mouth doesn't automatically open up. So how many people, when they fall asleep, they go like this? Like this, right? Mouth opens up and we start snoring loud. So the solution for this, there are a number of different products. You don't have to even spend a lot. You can even just get one of those rolls of surgical tape. Take a small little piece of it and just tape your lips shut from the middle. Even the sides could be open, just so that they don't open up like that. And you will see, guarantee you will see a complete difference. 3 days later, you're going to come and you're going to say, man, what you told me is amazing. So then he talks about a number of different things. He says that after all of the research, the sweet spot of best breathing is a pattern of 5.5 seconds in and 5.5 seconds out. Okay? So you have to slow your breathing down. 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. And breathe through, not your chest, but through your stomach or through your belly, right? So if you feel your stomach right now, it's like a balloon, right? So fill it up with air and empty it out. Fill it up and empty it out. Fill it up and empty it out. Do you know how much air our lungs can hold? What is that? 2 liters in one lung or 2 lungs? Both lungs. I don't have the exact number. I wanted to look up, but I didn't have time. But our lungs are really big. Okay? And they can cover a huge amount of space. So just recently, I took a friend of mine to the lake for like swimming. And I taught him swimming in like 10 seconds. So he was using a life vest. So I said, look, what is this life vest? There's air in it. Okay, that's why it doesn't let you go down. But look, you have 2 lungs inside that you can fill it up with air. So if you just think about it and fill up your lungs with air and just lay down, that air cannot go down into the water. He did it, and right then and there, he's like, wow, I can now float on top of the water. It's just the realization that we actually have a life vest built inside of us, which is our lungs. All right. So breathe from your belly, not from your chest. He talks about how the best breathing practices are. And he talks about something which is that if you actually hold your breath in, so you breathe in for 5.5 seconds, and then hold your breath for 6 seconds. Then breathe out for 5.5 seconds. That is what he was doing in that tape. That exercise that he did sitting in that house, the breathing exercise, that's basically what they were doing. And he says that the science shows that when you hold your breath, so in simple terminology, your lungs are begging for oxygen. Okay? The longer you hold, the longer they are begging you for oxygen. So when you breathe in, oxygen goes straight and the cells get that oxygen that they were begging for, and they actually get refreshed. So it's like you know how sometimes your kids say, "Hey, there's nothing to eat at home." Anybody ever had their kids say that there's nothing to eat and the fridge is completely full? So what you do is that you lock the fridge somehow, okay, and let them have nothing to eat for like 8 hours. Then what happens? They'll eat anything, right? Anything you put out, the stuff that they were saying, oh, this is old, it smells bad, they will eat anything at that time because they are so desperate for it now. So he says that holding your breath, like breathe in, then hold, then it will do the same thing to your cells. So again, I'm going through a whole chapter in one slide. Here are some of his recommendations about breathing. Make nasal breathing your default form of breathing. Whenever you notice yourself breathing from your mouth, close your mouth and breathe from your nose. Practice these different forms of breathing as he's mentioning. He says that when your breathing gets better, you get 70% better sleep, 40% lower stress hormones are found in your bloodstream, and improved focus. Improve focus. You know how they say that whenever you are stressed, they say, take a deep breath, right? Whenever you're feeling anxious, take a deep breath. When your blood pressure is high, by the way, I'm not giving any medical advice, okay? But sometimes, let's say you are just stressed out, you're scared all of a sudden. They say, okay, calm down, take some deep breaths. It will help calm down. It will reduce your stress. And shut your mouth, breathe through your nose, and do it slower, softer, and lower. So this is the book. I'm going to put the title of it back up again. So if you want to get it, I highly recommend that you not only get this book, but you also read it, and you can get it actually from the library app for free in audiobook format, and you can just listen to it while you're driving around. So definitely check this book out. Any questions? Not that I'm an expert. I didn't do the research. I just read the book. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Sweet breathing.